I think authenticity can only exist if you know who you are. It doesn't exist otherwise. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who have no
Mhm.
idea who they are.
Mm.
Like I
Mhm.
use the example of being orientated for a job. Like we
Sure.
onboard you for 2 weeks before you
Mhm.
do the job. We're asked to promote ourselves, but we've never been through an orientation about ourselves,
Mm.
right? I think everybody deserves to find that authenticity, but you have to sit with yourself about yourself. You got to
Mhm.
sit with yourself and you got to determine really simply these are the 3 things. Who are you? What do you want? And why do you deserve it?
Welcome to Authentic Conversations, the podcast where we dive deep into the real stories, the real people, and the real experiences that shape our lives and communities. I'm Deanna Brown, and I invite you into a space of curiosity, vulnerability, and everyday heroes. From CEOs and entrepreneurs to advocates and neighbors, those who face authenticity and adversity with courage. Today we welcome Cheldin. Welcome, Cheldin.
Hello, friend. How are you?
Fantastic. By the way, you are just Cheldin
Yeah,
because to my
that's it.
mind, you are Madonna
That's it.
or Anna
I'm not
or,
it.
the
I'm not
like.
it. I got
So
to get that paperwork going.
you're Barbara, you're all those, you're Oprah. I mean, you're obviously all that. And I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to where you are today and,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and what you're doing as a CEO, a
Yeah,
talent, a producer,
I love it.
a maverick, a TikTok influencer,
All the
all the
things.
like. So just tell me a little bit about your background in your own words.
Of course, of course. Hello, everyone. I'm Cheldin Barlatt Rumer. I'm the CEO and executive producer of This Is It Network. We're a digital streaming platform for remarkable women. We tell inspiring and motivating stories on our digital platform. We're now available on iOS and Android and Apple TV and Roku and Fire TV and all the things. I started out in PR marketing and events. I am as loud as you hear me through the waves right now. I know a lot of you have had to adjust your volume since this has begun. You can often hear me before you see me. That's the kind of energy that I tend to bring to the table, but I'm a natural storyteller. I believe that history is made by those who tell the story, and if you don't tell the story, you're often left out. And I think it's really an important time for women in particular, marginalized groups in particular, to really take their stories and their narratives, as we say, into our own
Mhm.
hands. And so it's really from the eye of a marketer. I grew up and really, cut my teeth in hospitality marketing, events, and PR. And how do you create a platform that allows for you to tell stories, but also can be useful and profitable and effective and move the dial and really be beneficial to all involved, not just the people, but the products and all the things. So it's been really fun to create it through the eyes of a marketer for marginalized groups that I belong to, welcoming everyone, but knowing that not everyone's necessary, in really elevating this ecosystem. So it's so super fun. I truly plan fun and talk about the things that matter to me and surround myself with people that matter to me. So yeah, it's been a
Well,
blast.
you're such an overachiever. You sort of answered my next question, which is, why does this work matter to
Yeah,
you? And I think you teased out a
sure,
number of those
sure.
thoughts, but
Yeah,
simply if you had one reason why this work
sure,
matters to you so
sure.
much and what keeps you going,
Yeah.
what is it? What would you say?
Yeah, I think that persuasive language moves people,
Mhm.
right? I grew up on traditional talk shows, and so I'm hoping a lot of the audience also did the same thing. And when I say traditional talk shows, it's Oprah, it's Donahue, it's
Mm.
Sally, it's
Yeah.
Montel, it's Ricky Lake, right? There was a segment of time from 10 a.m. till 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern that
Yeah.
there was constant educational entertainment being pushed out into the world. You didn't know anything about foster care. You sat down 20 minutes later, you knew more about foster care. You didn't know about this diet, Richard Simmons, Dr. Ruth, like all these really quintessential people that were really unknown until they sat on that couch. And I think that there was a really interesting time where you went from not knowing something at the beginning of 28 minutes and then being better for it at the end. I always like to think about Donahue running up and down the stairs as the first comment section, right?
Yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
first comment section for people to be like, well, I didn't know that or about this. And you would nod
Yeah.
your head at home, being like, I had that same exact question. Whether that was produced or whether that was organic, it didn't really matter
Yeah.
because we knew more because of it. And so for me, I believe language moves us, but
Mhm.
only if we're talking, right? And only if we're as loud as the opposing messages. And I believe that we have a really unique opportunity in this moment to be as loud as opposing messages. And I want to fill that void. And so that's what I do. Yeah.
Speaking of loud, there's a TM on your website that
Yep.
talks about this thing called Scream the Dream. So
It is.
just tell
It
our
is.
listeners about what that is and what that means to you
It
and
is. It
how that came
supports my
about.
medical condition, so I am physically incapable of whispering, like, I believe it's a medical condition. Like, I lean over, but I'm still screaming, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking like I'm trying to whisper, but it's still screaming, and so I realized really quickly that the majority of people live their life in a whisper, right? They live
Mm,
their life whispering their wishes, as I call it. And I think for me, because yelling is so organic, finding the words is really important. It's not necessarily the volume of what you're saying, but the
mm,
intention of the words in which you're sharing. And I wanted to teach people how to do that. And so, in addition to the content that we produce, it's really personal branding lessons and ways in order to
mhm.
communicate effectively. Because again, we all know people that are loud that say nothing.
Yeah,
Right? We know people that are loud that got nothing to say, but if
right.
you could use your voice effectively, again, to make that change, again, we see how it works when legends like Oprah Winfrey and her favorite things and shutting down websites simply because she loves UGG slippers. That's powerful.
Yeah,
And we don't realize that we all have that power. And so how do I help people not only by producing content and producing digital talk shows, but how do I help the average woman become a remarkable woman by utilizing her voice, and so that's
yeah.
the essence of screaming your dream.
Well, you're kind of addressing how the market has been challenged, right? How women in general have been challenged.
Sure,
Let's dig a little bit more into your background. What have you been challenged
sure,
by?
sure,
And how has that challenge shaped your approach to this,
sure.
to this scream the dream and
Yeah.
this notion of showing up?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I don't shy away. I was the loud child. I was the talkative student. I was the
Mhm.
distraction in the class, right? I
Yeah.
got the attention. I couldn't sit still. All the things, right?
Yeah.
Very successful people were the talkative people in the class, right? The kids that couldn't stay still or the class clowns or whatever it happens to be. And I realized that that wasn't a detriment when used
Mm.
properly, right?
Mhm.
It was a strength when used properly. And I think it took a lot of shushing and a lot of calming down and a lot of relaxing. Those are 3 things you can't do to me. You can't tell me to shush, you can't tell me to calm down, and you can't tell me to relax. That will pull me over the edge.
Right.
But understanding how to harness that, right? How to harness all of that energy and how to use it for good. How to use the fact that I'm able to command attention, able
Mhm.
to get people to listen to me, able to, there's a lot of people that can do that that don't use it for good, right?
Yeah.
So how can I use it for good? And so one of the challenges was understanding the power of my voice and how to use it,
Mhm.
where to
Yeah.
use it, really how to address various groups when using it. It's a
Mhm.
talent, it's a skill set that you have to really be willing to harness in a
Yeah.
responsible way. And so the challenge was not being listened to. The challenge was being underestimated. The challenge was, being patted on your head and told, it's not your turn. So how
Mhm.
do you use what it is that you have to be able to get closer to what it is that you want? Like a colleague had asked me years ago, so what are you trying to do? And, I'm trying to obviously change history. I'm trying to make an impact, and I'm trying to do it with the resources that I have, which are a lot slower, a lot more gritty, but the mission is still the same. And so I had to make that decision too. Would I spend my formative years auditioning for
Mhm.
stages to stand on, or would I spend the same time and energy creating the stage for myself? And so I chose the latter, and I
Yeah.
think that, that was what's best for me and the community that I've built.
So let's talk about the other title that you carry, which is Chief Executive Officer.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that version of yourself because a lot of
Yeah,
what you're talking about, even
yeah,
in your sort of PR comms world
yeah,
and event world,
yeah,
and then you become an influencer,
yeah,
creator, and now you're a force on streaming television. But there's another side to what you do every day, which
yeah,
is that CEO role. Tell me a little bit about
sure.
you, Sheldon, as a CEO, and
Yeah.
what that feels and looks like.
Yeah, it's different sides of your brain, and I think that there's a very interesting uniqueness to
Mm.
being said talent
Mhm.
or on the creative side and having to be equally on the business side of what it
Yeah.
is. How do you make messages and creative profitable? And
Mhm.
what does that look like? And that is different. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a real reality that a lot of creatives aren't accustomed to, right? You can paint in your basement
Yeah.
for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
You can be part of local theater
Yeah.
or you could want to be in a blockbuster.
Mhm.
Both have 2 different requirements,
Yeah.
right? And things in which you have to really be held accountable to. And so that was a decision that I needed to make. Where did I wanna be? What was I comfortable in being? Again, going back to, do I wanna spend my life auditioning to be in major broadcast? Because again, as a youth, I looked up to Oprah and Donahue in all of these
Mhm.
scenarios. Should I bang the doors of Harpo begging to have my own couch? Or can I create my own couch? And if I am creating my own couch, what does that mean fiscally?
Yeah.
What does that mean
Yeah.
economically? How much does it cost to build your own couch? How much
Mhm.
does it cost to support production and distribution? And how messy is it to want to do all of
Right.
those things? Because again, you have a story to tell and you have a passion behind it, but who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
And the sobering fact is figuring out who's going to pay for it.
Right.
And so, we want to create authentic content. We want to have authentic stories, but we want to find, and we just recently created a campaign that's called Good to Gold, which is finding
Mm.
good brands that hold a golden standard, right? So,
Mm.
what are the good brands that are out there? What are the people that are doing the right thing, that are on our version, the right side of history? How can I elevate those particular brands? How can I speak to them in a way that's productive? How can I help them in getting in front of our community? That's a business decision. And so sometimes creatives don't play in that business game. I kind of love them both like a lunatic.
Mhm.
Kind of love being, I mean, it's a sickness. I kind of love, being creative and seeing how we can fund the creativity,
Yeah.
but that's a big challenge. It's a huge challenge to be able to say, is this profitable and useful? Is
Yeah.
it positive and, economically sound? And that's a hard line to walk. That's a hard line to walk. Yeah.
Well, speaking of hard lines or ways of thinking about both the business and the creative side,
Yeah.
you've heard about this thing called artificial
I
intelligence,
have. I
you
have.
know?
This little
I know
thing.
I know you've recently been to CES. I know you're just coming back from
Yes.
Sundance, so you've got both the creative community and the technology community experiences to report back. But before we jump into AI straight up, what does authenticity look like and mean
Yeah.
to you, both in work and in your relationships? Is there
Sure.
because this is obviously it's the brand above my head here,
Yeah.
but talk
Yeah.
to me about what it means, and then we will
Yeah.
talk about what we're
For
seeing
sure.
in an AI-driven world.
For sure. I think authenticity can only exist if you know who you are. It doesn't exist otherwise. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who have no
Mhm.
idea who they are.
Mm.
Absolutely no idea. So claim
Yeah.
that they're authentic, but have no
Right.
idea who they are. And I
Right.
think that and I don't say that of any of their faults. I mean, I'm an adjunct professor as well. I teach
Yeah.
undergraduates about personal branding. And oftentimes that's the first time 19, 20, 21. Will anybody even ask them who they were? Needless to
Okay.
say, the adults that are roaming this planet that have never been asked who they are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not part of the curriculum. Like, I
Mhm.
use the example of being orientated for a job. Like, if you were ever a waiter or a waitress or in
Yeah.
retail, you have to go to even onboarding in the corporate space, right? We
Sure.
onboard you for 2 weeks before
Mhm.
you do the job. We're asked to promote ourselves, but we've never been through an orientation about ourselves,
Mm.
right? You don't know who you are. So when
Yeah.
somebody says, "Oh, what do you want in your life?" Like, I wanna get paid, I want a job, I wanna be famous, or whatever abrasive thing you answer, or not answering at all and sweating in places that you shouldn't, right? And you're like, "I don't
Yeah.
know what to
Yeah.
do." I think everybody deserves to find that authenticity, but you have to sit with yourself about yourself. You gotta
Mhm.
sit with yourself, and you gotta determine really simply, these are the 3 things: who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it. Why do you
Yeah.
deserve what you want? Who are you? What do you want? And why do you deserve it? I'm Cheldin
Yeah.
Barlatt Rumer. I would love to have representation in every state in the United States for This Is It Network. This is a short-term goal. We love to be able to elevate the voices of remarkable women, And we've been doing this for the past 10 years and surrounding ourselves with affluent and intelligent experts in storytelling. Who I
Mm.
am, what I want, why I deserve it. If you can do that, and that I think that even starting a relationship with you, I had to be prepared, right? Who was
Yeah.
I? What do I
Yeah.
want? Why do I deserve it? One, it keeps you from wasting people's time. And two, it
Yeah.
allows for you to know yourself so you can share yourself. So authenticity really starts with you knowing who you are and
That's
then
fantastic.
sharing that with people.
Well, that's great. And that's good context because when we enter a world where there's going to be as many machines as there are
Yep.
humans out in the media landscape,
Yeah, sure.
um, what are your feelings about
Yeah.
this
Okay.
future world where is it interesting, exciting, challenging,
Yeah.
scares the daylights out of you? What
Yeah.
are your feelings about this new world?
Think we're gonna be okay. What one of the things right? I think that ultimately, it's an inflated gentleman bubble, right? Like,
Yeah.
overly excited, everybody's excited, trillions and billions and all of this, right, at the end of the day. Like,
Yeah.
God bless you with your billions and your trillions. Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking to small business owners that actually have product and profit that can't get anybody to lend the money. Needless to
Yeah.
say, we're making stuff up and they're making trillion. I mean, it's you have to put it in perspective. I use AI regularly,
Mhm.
in a number of different ways from an efficiency standpoint, right?
Yeah.
From an editing standpoint, editing text and really, making sure
Mhm.
grammar is, in its most
Yes.
simplistic space.
Yeah.
We've been using spell check, which is AI, for decades now, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
I see it as a tool we use, not who
Yeah.
we are. I see it as a tool we use to make things efficient. I think that where the marketing of AI
Mhm.
has really got it wrong
Yeah.
is and where there's the fear is that the statements that we use when discussing it is a replacement.
Mhm.
Vanity, it's a replacement. "We're gonna replace the workforce. We're gonna replace," as opposed to say, "This is a tool in which you use to be more efficient," right? So,
Mhm.
me as a marketer, I'm like, "Why are you using this language? No wonder
Yeah.
everyone's scared."
Yeah.
When it can't replace, in my opinion, the
Yeah.
humanity of who it is we are. I think with that being said, I think it's a really, really amazing opportunity for the
Yeah.
talented. I think it's a very, very, very exciting time for those
Yeah.
people who have talent, right? Because people are now paying premium for that talent. We saw it in the truly surging rates for Taylor Swift and Beyoncé tickets, right?
Mm.
We were playing tickets that had commas in them to
Yes.
go and just be in their space because it wasn't dubbed, it wasn't artificial, it wasn't
Yeah.
somebody taking their own version of their music, it was the authentic artist providing that authentic experience. What is
Mhm.
happening in local communities is people are watching people paint live,
Yeah.
right? People are watching people
Yeah.
read live, and so, yes, there is this aggressive nature towards AI, but I think that there's a celebration of humanity that's happening
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in-person experiences that is now going to be premium. So you creating a poem live is it
Yeah.
now a ticketed experience. You
Sure.
sewing live is now and getting the first handbag, right?
Yeah.
Is now an experience. And so you can't fake those live experiences. Either you're talented or you're not. And so
Right.
the focus in essence goes back to promoting
Yeah.
real talent
Yeah.
versus what can be AI generated.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I mean, I think I'm running into investors currently who are only investing in sports
Yeah.
or music tours, things of
Yeah,
that where
yeah,
it is live, right?
yeah,
Because, there's holograms, but we know better to we know Prince is really has passed. So
right.
when he's leading a concert, it's either a cover
Exactly.
band or it's a hologram. It's not him. So I hate to
Yeah.
that's a spoiler alert for anybody who's going to the Prince concert next week.
No, for sure. But that goes back to your point, though, it started with humanity.
Yeah.
So even the AI product that we're using now has to
Yeah.
start from humanity. It
Yeah.
AI is generated based on what we create.
Mhm.
And if we can show up and do it live, that becomes premium. So it's not the white t-shirt that we're selling off the rack, it becomes
No.
the destination premium brand. So,
Yeah, I mean, I do liken it to 1994 when the internet was launching. Epicurious, which was my first engagement in the digital world, we knew we were a thing when
Yeah.
we had two people from two different parts of the world who didn't know each other open a bottle of wine and taste it together. And in these clunky forums, trading comments.
Yeah.
That notion of community is just an extension of that
Percent.
that live experience, right? I also just spent the weekend in a stadium in northern London, and the idea that there were 40,000 people in a women's soccer
Mm.
match, or they call it football over there, was
Yeah.
just so heartwarming for a kid who's been watching
Amazing.
women's soccer for, 25 years at this point.
Sure.
So, it is in this interesting way that live experience is human,
Yeah.
and we're entering a bit of a renaissance.
I think so too. I think so
And
too.
then we've got these machines allowing us to engage,
Sure.
but there's that intersection.
Sure.
It kind of gets me thinking about, let's, assume that AI continues in a very productive way for the next decade. But are there other things that you're thinking about, other trends or movements or technologies or even causes or missions that you
Sure.
think, gosh, it would be wonderful if the next 10 years this happened? Be a bit of a futurist for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the future is content to community, right? I think that we gave it a go, right? When we first started this experiment of social media, it
Yeah,
was everyone participating, right? If I were to ask my students 10 years ago, how many of you posted today? Everybody would raise their hand. They were posting
yeah,
pictures of their burger, they were checking in at the concert, they were doing all these things. You ask the same age group now, and there's few people that post. They
yeah,
watch,
yeah.
they consume, but they don't
Exactly.
participate. And so now social media has become really a place in which you are fed. Your For
Mm,
You page, you're fed the information. You're very seldom participating unless to comment, to lend your voice to what has already been created, not necessarily be the creator. We're leaving it
yeah.
to, though there are millions of creators, we're leaving it to the chosen million to create the
Mhm,
content where the tens and hundreds of millions are just soaking it all up.
yeah,
So what is really interesting is, again, going back to this traditional television that I ran to the television to see, I think
yeah.
that there's going to be a movement towards destination content. I'm gonna wake up and wanna see what Deanna has to say, and I'm gonna go
Yeah.
find her platforms in order to figure that out. Because I think that the For You pages will change a bit. Yes, I'll turn on
Mhm.
the TV and scroll like we did,
Yeah.
right? So I'll open my social and see what it gives me, but at a certain point, I'm gonna go to the show that feeds me. I'm gonna go
Right.
to content that feeds me, and then I wanna be surrounded by those people, whether, again, that's an extension through a live event or a forum or a conversation or a comment section, and so I think that we're really following the lead. I think that in
Mhm.
all things purposes, it would have been everybody would have been a creator, but we all know that not everybody wants to use their voice in this way, so now we
Yeah.
wanna be able to figure out what that looks like. So I think that the future is going to be content to community, and we're going to see a lot of brands with their own separate channels and a lot of conversations about what, like-minded people meeting in like-minded spaces to be able to have those
Mhm.
conversations using AI as a tool to find those spaces
Mhm.
and to support us once we're in those spaces, but it's really gonna be grounded on the topic, the industry, and the content, and finding like-minded people based around that.
And I think to that end, this idea that there's gonna be a Donahue moment, right? So
100%.
you're gonna have that destination,
Yeah,
tune on, tune in. You're gonna have a community, let's say it's an in-studio audience,
100%,
and then you're gonna have the host jump off the couch and go into the audience that
100%,
then brings that in-studio community to the broader community, and now with technology, we
100%.
can surface all this real time.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with partners like, such as Zoom, that we're doing these
Yeah,
live events, but then there people could be watching from home, and
right.
then they're tuning in and so there's this real nurturing environment that we're creating all around a specific topic, and me being somebody that fits into a lot of scenarios, right?
Mhm.
Demographically, gender-based, industry-based, likes. I'm a former Division I athlete, so if I wanna go to that sector of my space, if I wanna go
Yeah,
and I'm an immigrant, so if I wanna talk to my West African community, I'm going to that particular space. So you
right.
can be all that you are, but
Yeah,
find the various rooms in the house to sit in, I think is really interesting way that
yeah.
we can get really rich content, useful
Mhm.
content to people who really want it, as opposed to splattering, just taking whatever you can get, posting and praying, as I like to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, a lot of this is super helpful, and I think a lot of this, just having viewed some of your shows and
yeah.
listened to some of your missives
Thank
online, it all gets very
Yeah,
interestingly back to authenticity, right?
sure.
Because you knowing that you have this complex and rich, I'll call it vision seats,
Yeah, yeah,
positions, right?
yeah,
The athlete, the
yeah,
host, the
yep,
CEO, the
yep.
mother, that you've got all these
I can
roles,
already
and
put
knowing explicitly who you are
Yeah,
allows you to then be authentic, which then is going to be successful in this next era of media for
thank
sure.
thank you.
What's the one question you wish people asked you more?
Ooh, that's a good question. How are you doing? Well, I mean, with true authenticity, because I think that we move so quickly, and I say this to say, and I try to do better at it, because I call it the two touch. Because we move
Yeah,
so quickly,
yeah,
we and you see somebody and you're like, "How you doing? Okay, I need this thing. Can you send me this
yeah,
thing? Can you do this thing? Oh my gosh, how are you? Okay, can you
yeah,
pick up my kids?" And da 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 da. When you do the two touch, and I'm
right.
now we're gonna have people do this and cause a whole havoc, but when you do the
Yes, we are.
Right? When you say, "How are you?" And they wanna say, "Yes, I'm fine, and what are we eating for lunch, and where are we
Yeah,
going, and do you have
yeah,
the deck?" Give them another second, hold if you can, if it's appropriate, touch their elbow or shoulder and just ask for like a
yes,
beat, if
yeah.
appropriate. I warned
The
you.
touching is the appropriate
Is a
part. The giving them a beat is fine. It's just like, don't go touching people,
No one
Sheldon.
touching people. That's not endorsed by this podcast. It's not endorsed. But it's to say, "How are
Yeah,
you?" that second time. I've had 3 people tear up
yeah,
when you ask them the second time. Because
right.
1, now you're holding space, because 1,
Yes,
you really care about how
yeah,
they're doing,
yeah,
and 2, you're giving them the room to give
yeah,
you an authentic, to your point, answer.
yeah,
And that I think when you are moving so quickly and you're, strengthening your brand and you're producing all of these scenarios, I think, especially for those that are close to me or those that are curious, for them to ask me how I'm doing would be beneficial, because the
yeah,
answer to that, "Hey, today was hard," or "Ooh,
mhm,
I'm really trying to be able to close this deal," or "I didn't think this was gonna be this hard, foolishly," right?
yeah,
Allows for that authenticity to happen, allows for me to show that though I am successful, though I am ambitious, that
sure,
ambitious often comes with a price.
yeah,
And if you want to, I'd like to share that with you, and
yeah.
we'll be stronger for it. So that's my question, yeah.
Sheldon, not surprising to
Yeah.
me, who knows you. It's been a fantastic
Oh,
chance to
so
to
much
get to
fun.
know you even that much better, and
Thank
hopefully my listening audience here
I hope
will follow in the show notes. I'll have your launch, your
Please.
links to your networks and your profiles, etc., so you all can continue to listen to Sheldon scream at people, or at least come across in a loud,
I
happy
will.
voice. And if you ever have the opportunity to meet her in person,
Please.
go ahead and do the two touch. Ask her how she is,
Yeah.
and then do the outreach. She's just permissioned you all
I've
to
given
to
you
do that.
permission. I've given you
Yeah,
permission.
absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate you in so many ways, and thanks for joining this morning, and we'll continue to stay in touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take care.